What's good, team? It's MurderInc back with the Diablo 4 video. I look tired, I get it. I'm up after a long night of Season 2 release, grinding Diablo, testing out everything I could test out, and we made it to 66. We're going pretty slow here, because honestly, Barbarian is overpowered. Just like this build, literally scaling with the ability Overpower. That's what I'm here to show you today. And we're just going to go over it. As we can see, at this moment, I have half of the aspects, and I'm doing more damage than any other class I've played with. So I want to make a video about what I think is going to happen after this, but we're here to talk about this build, and it's using Hammer of the Ancients. So first, if you only care about the build guide, of course, you can get that from the comment section. There are going to be a few things you're going to want to pick up here and there, because this is, there are a few builds doing something like this, but this is just built different. So as we can see, and as I explained already, we're using Hammer of the Ancients and the Overpower skill. This was recently reworked, and let me just give you an example and kind of show you some gameplay as I'm explaining this. We are not using vulnerable damage because I currently don't have access to it while making this build. You can definitely add it in the future, which is why this is going to be a mid-game build, meaning from level 38, I think, is when you can shift into this from the Ren version or the upheaval that I kind of pitched earlier as a leveling guide. And this is just going to destroy everything in the mid game. Capstone, no problem. You can do it as early as 52. Don't recommend it. It's going to be a struggle. But I did mine at 56, I think, or 57. And it was a cakewalk, to say the least. So even in being in World 4 tier that low, I haven't struggled at all, because if you know how Overpower works, it scales with your health and your kind of fortified health. We can kind of go in game here. My health isn't anything too crazy, 3,524, but I get a full fortified bar, so it's double that pretty much. And if you want to have a look at my overpower damage, 1,251% overpower damage, and I'm using 2 swords. Right? I barely have any ancient gear, or ancestral gear rather. We have 1 there, and so yeah, you can see I'm critting as of right now, a little bit after the video was recorded, over 2 million damage AoEs on my overpower hits. Now, is this normal for a level 66? I don't think so. Correct me if I'm wrong if you play another class and you're AoEing for 2 million damage at level 66. Even earlier than that, rather, and you were doing, I mean, this build's doing over 1 million AoEs once you hit level 50. I mean, even earlier than that. It just depends how lucky you get with your gear. So let's head back to the build on a perfect build that, I mean, I can't even showcase you how good this build is going to be because I don't have the gear yet. I don't, but I know what's going to work now that I've played it, and I'm pretty deep into the game now, so we just take off. I'm going to be honest with you guys. So the first thing, you can just copy the skill tree. It's pretty self-explanatory, nothing too in detail to go to. We didn't do anything unique here. We have brute force. We are using unconstrained, which means what? Fury isn't an issue. Thank you. Finally, Fury isn't an issue. We don't have to take unbridled rage. If you want 3 million overpower crits, you heard that right, 3 million overpower crits, you can go to unbridled rage. However, you won't be able to attack fast enough, and we're here to go fast and do big damage, so we take a very small hit. I can't even explain how small the difference is between unconstrained and unbridled, because we have to compare an overall DPS. So you might be saying, oh, unbridled is way better because the numbers are way higher, but the unconstrained numbers are slightly smaller, but you're doing it all the time, like spamming it. And it feels so good. Again, aspect of Bokathos on the helmet here. And if you want to see the stats or everything, it's a bit unique. I will get into that more in detail in a second here. Numbing Wrath, Expectant, Might, Audacity, Ancestral Force, Limitless Rage, Earth Strikers. This is the key here after swapping 8 times. And you can get this from Morgan Works here and Hawazar just by doing the dungeon for the first time. Your next skill will overpower and deal 30 to 50% increased overpower damage. This is very, very good. Next, we have Edge Masters, Bold Chieftains. Honestly, you don't need Bold Chieftains because I'm only using 2 shouts if you kind of look at the skills here. But I took it because I did not see a single other thing that I could put here. You can literally, it's a free slot. Aspect of Giant Strides, I don't have this. This makes the build pop even more. And once I get it, I guess I can update like an end game version of this when we're level 100. but this is gonna, if you want to play this build all the way to 100, this is one time I'm gonna regret being like a guide maker. I want to play this build all the way to 100. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's that fun. But I'm going to swap inevitably to other builds, figure other things out if I can, collaborate with people, all that good stuff. But this build is crazy fun. And you might be thinking, but I don't like Hammer the Ancients. This is the most flexible build in the world. So really quickly, just finishing up my thought here, we have Disobedience on the amulet here, Vampiric Powers, Hemomancy, Resilience, Blood Boil, Sanguine Brace, Domination here. It's a little bit tricky on the Vampiric Powers. You just have to save up and farm the Vampiric Helltide Zone, which of course appears on your map all the time in this green right here. And I mean, it is what it is. But as far as the gameplay loop, you kind of can see from the footage here, Call the Ancients, Leap, Warcry, Challenging Shout, Hammer the Ancients, Lunging Strike, Hammer the Ancients, or just spam Hammer the Ancients, because you'll have so much fury while Call the Ancients is up, and the screen just melts in front of you. Like, it just blows up, deletes, next. And it's really fun. So as far as what we're doing here, we're stacking Overpower damage, which means we need a lot of rubies. Overpower damage in the weapon. I'm just stacking health from Overpower damage, and resistance is huge in this game now. If you haven't figured that out already, resistance is huge and it makes you very tanky, which is why you're going to see on these stats I recommend, even though I don't have anywhere close to these stats, this is what in my mind would be perfect to make this build even more ridiculous than it currently is with my scuffed setup here. As we can see, just doing ridiculous damage, completely unoptimized, and I don't know if this is going to survive. I'm going to be honest with you, Barbarians here, I don't know if this is going to survive. So damage while berserking, max life everywhere, like, that's it. You max life everywhere. That's what you want. Don't go around it. The survivability increase, the damage increase is insane. Cooldown, and okay, so every time you see resistance on this build planner, fill it with whatever resistance you want. That's what you want to aim for. This is like a good filler slot. So makes it even easier to gear, because now you only have to worry about 3 rolls. Right? If you get a 2-4 piece, meaning 2 of the stats are good, keep it. Use it forever. Just get that 3-4 and your resistance slot is whatever. If you run into issues, you can search for that perfect piece down the line. So we have maximum life, lightning res again, ranks to Hammer the Ancients. All this is pretty self-explanatory and similar to past seasons, except for Overpower damage. Now we're looking for that pretty much everywhere. Now you might be thinking, aren't there diminishing returns on Overpower? You would think. I mean, I'm sure there are, but like I just showed you guys, I'm at 1,251 in town, which means nothing's proccing that's going to increase this damage, which I do have in this kit and from the build planner here. So when I overpower, and when I add overpower damage, it just keeps going up. I don't really understand it, but it just keeps going up. And maybe the numbers are so big that I'm not noticing a drop off in how good this is, but as of right now, this is just stackable to the moon. And as I kind of commented on before, I'm using 2 swords. Why is 2 swords a big deal? Because if you use a mace, you get baseline overpower damage from the mace as opposed to crit damage, which we don't really care about. So overpower damage here, overpower damage there, don't have it on top here. So we're missing 48% here and all that good stuff. So yeah, that's what we're working with. And I talk about this, maybe it's not a big deal, but it's just kind of mind-blowing to me. I'm not using vulnerable at all. Right? So I have this section here. The build currently doesn't use vulnerable damage. How does that make any sense? I don't know. I really don't. And that just goes to show you how powerful this is. So if you look at my Paragon board here, let's kind of get this all set up. And we will scroll a bit. You know what? Let's just zoom out. Why not? I have a board and I left you guys 69 points, no pun intended, 69 points to play with this. This is what I'm going to do to start here. And then the sky is the limit. Why did I leave it like this and not give you some cookie cutter thing to copy? I left it so you can add 1 board here and 1 board here for the remaining 69 points. And the reason why I did this is because, like I said, this is just going to blast through this build specifically. Like, if you copy it exactly until like 80, 85 maybe with the points. I'm not good at math, I don't know. But after this, when you start getting better gear, you can add new things to the build. Like, what if you don't like Hammer the Ancients anymore? Fine. Pick up Double Swing. Apply it to this build. You win. Pick up Upheaval. Apply it to this build. You win. Don't want to use Lunging Strike? Pick up Bash for more overpowers. You win. This is such a universal build. And it just clicked. I got lucky and I just picked random stuff and it went together nicely, and I started just building off of that, what felt fun. This is the first time I didn't look into what numbers are the highest, what's going to give me the greatest result here. I just started playing what was fun, and then I started min-maxing the damage after that, and this came out. And honestly, this is one of the best builds I think I've ever made, which is hard for me to say because I made that really expensive build with Whirlwind, and I said, I'm going to play this forever, and I do think this build in this current season with what it's doing with Overpower probably overtakes that. That's how good this build is, and you know what I'm talking about if you've been watching this channel for a while here. So with that, I will recap the Paragon board very, very briefly here. We have Might as the first one. This is really important. Bone Breaker. Every 12 seconds, your next skill is guaranteed to overpower. You want this ASAP. The build was still fine without it. I just rushed there because I was like, oh my god, this is going to be a huge damage increase, and I was so satisfied when I finally got this point. This is what we needed from Diablo 4. It felt so good to hit this legendary node. And you hit it pretty early if you did your renown. You kind of fly through this first glyph slot. And once you hit this, it feels like such a big upgrade. Love the direction of the game at the moment. Next, we have Wrath here. Mainly for the critical strike, it generates 3 Fury. No other reason. You don't have to use Wrath there. Next, we have Undaunted here. You can take that second if you want. And finally, we have this Crusher glyph, which is obviously a massive multiplier. If you want to take this earlier, go ahead. The reason why I have it so late is because you don't need damage. You're going to figure out very quickly with this build that it's so busted you don't need damage. Now, if they tune this down, I would say you want to take Crusher first. Like, forget the first glyph Might here. Just take Crusher first because it's such a big multiplier. But what I'm really talking about here is if you want to add Bleed to the build, this is when, let me go to edit mode here. This is when you can start taking things like Blood Rage. Killing a bleeding enemy has a 10% chance to grant you Berserking for 5 seconds. Your damage is increased by multiplicative 25% of your damage while Berserking bonus. That's a big damage bonus. Again, don't think you need damage, but it is what it is. Next, if you want to use Vulnerable in your build, which at the moment my only plan is to use the Exploit glyph. That's my vulnerable for this build. Then if you overpower an enemy, it grants you an additional 10% multiplicative bonus for 5 seconds. So a lot of good things here. Not too sure about Flawless Technique. Hemorrhage, I don't think is going to be as good as Decimator. Then we have Weapons Master. It's up to you guys. Again, I left you guys 2 boards to pick from, and we're very close. Let me see how many points off we are. So I left you 1 point away from 1 board, and I left you, let's just map out a pathway here. Something that's easy. And I guess I also forgot to mention that since resistance is such a big deal here, if you want to go with 1 more board right here and then nothing here, you can just get the resistance and life nodes to round off your resistances. We have cold res here, we have fire resistance here, so there's a lot of resistance close to you. You don't need Warbringer. You do not need Warbringer. You are going to fully fortify very fast if you have Numbing Wrath. Do I have Numbing Wrath? Okay, I don't even have Numbing Wrath, and I'm still full fortifying very quickly. So with that, once you get Numbing Wrath, which I do have, hopefully I have, this would be a mistake if I don't. Let me just check. Yes, we have Numbing Wrath on the chest piece. Once you have this, GG, right? The main question people are going to have about this build is, what do you do when Call of the Ancients falls off? Now, from my past experience, I'm already past the point of where Call of the Ancients should be falling off. However, it's not. I am not joking. Call of the Ancients has not fallen off yet. And I do plan on going into that minion build and testing it out. If you did check out the Upheaval theory craft that I did before the season launched, definitely want to do that because, I mean, I'm going to need Hellhammer first, which I'm going to farm with this build, but Call of the Ancients, as of right now, still has not fallen off. It's an incredible Fury generator. The cooldown's pretty short. The guys actually still do damage. Once they stop one-shotting, I might consider it, but in previous seasons, I dropped this at literally right after the tier 4 capstone. It was just dropped. So maybe I'm getting close to dropping it. What would I possibly take? If I do come to that moment, that's a great question. I don't have a perfect answer to right now. Of course, Wrath of the Berserker is something I can take. Or, we're never going to take Steelgrass with this build. It's too slow for how fast this is. If you see the gameplay footage, you understand that you cannot stop and pull everything to you. You're just moving forward Hammer the Ancients, Upheaval, whatever skill you choose to use, and you're just destroying everything. I also believe I don't have Prolific Fury in the guide because I don't need it. I really don't know why I have it here. What I should be using is this. Yeah, movement speed. Okay, so you're going to be hopping around. You're going to be proccing Berserk once you get the aspect of the Giant Stride, which I don't have currently on this. But if you do want to drop Call of the Ancients, you can take Iron Maelstrom. Don't think it's going to be that good. You can take the next Shout just to fulfill the fantasy of the Triple Shout. I think Triple Shout's pretty overrated based on this season, based on what I've seen. You can take Iron Skin, you can take Ground Stomp. Ground Stomp would have insane synergy with kind of this Leap Quake build I'm doing. I hate saying Leap Quake because Leap Quake kind of revolves the build around that mechanic, and this is about Overpower and your core skill 100%. Leap is just like the added bonus that's still really, really strong and fun to play here. So personally, I would drop Call of the Ancients for Ground Stomp. That's what I'm going to try first here, and then we're going to go back into the Paragon. As we can see mine here, I don't have good glyphs. I did get this one, and this is the one I would use because if you know, you can leap and Ground Stomp and stack these for insane damage. Again, don't think it's that necessary because I'm one-shotting things by like 5x their health and I'm 10 levels below them, so we'll have to see how this plays out. So that's the basic rundown of this build. Let me know if you have questions in the comment section. I will have this guide uploaded, share it around. It's going to, I've seen some people saying Barb is weak. I don't really know how. I don't think any experienced player, and this is going to be some shade here, so I'm sorry ahead of time. No experienced player said Barb was going to be weak in Season 2. So if you see any tier list that has Barbarian low on the list here, I hate to say it, but they don't understand the game as well as you think they do. I really do. I've talked with lots of people who have done lots of math with this game, and they were like, bro, Barbarians are going to be arguably the top or one of the best classes in Season 2, period. I felt the same way. I did feel the same way. I don't like to pre-hype things up just in case we get some nerfs early on, but this was said quite clearly from the real gamer community of Diablo 4, so it came true. So just to put things into perspective to what to expect when you're watching build guides and who you're going to watch guides from, be careful. There are a lot of really bad Barbarian builds. If you don't feel like the most overpowered thing in your game when you're playing with anybody, your build is wrong. Because this current iteration of Barbarian is to the moon compared to everything else. Like, I cannot stress this enough. And it's so much fun. So many options. You can throw Thorns into this. I've never seen a more universal kind of planner that I've made here that can just branch off into anything. And I even commented on that, on the uniques here. This build requires 0 uniques, but many can be added if you are lucky enough to get them. This is a plug and play build, literally plug and play, that can easily adapt to any playstyle. Murder, I don't like Hammer the Ancients, swap it. Upheaval, I don't like Upheaval, swap it. I like Rend, use Rend. I like Whirlwind, use Whirlwind. Swap your skill tree around. Use whatever skill you want with this baseline idea of what I'm doing here in this build, and it will not, I guarantee you won't fail. Like, I will bet it will not fail if you just follow everything I'm doing, from the aspects to the gearing to what to be looking for. You will not fail anything in this game. I promise you. That is my promise as a guide builder that does a lot of research and puts a lot of effort into his guides. This is the most universal build guide I've ever made, especially with leaving a blank Paragon board. So you can kind of, and this is the great fantasy of Diablo 4, you can go wherever you want with this. You really can. Like, leaving 2 Paragon boards, one ready to be clicked on with 69 points, the sky is the limit. So open up, get that creativity out. I'm going to be doing the same. I've been having a blast doing it so far, so don't want to rant too much because it's been quite a long video so far, but listen, spread the news, share the guide around, let people know how strong this is, and I will see you in the next video, which you're going to want to check out. You're really going to want to check out what I have to say next year, so if you like this content, smash the like button, subscribe with the notification bell, and I'll see you in that next upload.